Welcome back to the Double M Innovations channel. I've been exploring different kinds of powertrains I could use on my wind turbine. I was showing in the other videos if you've been following along. The first idea I had was to use some wheels as a drivetrain that would just ride along on a track on the outer circumference of the wind turbine. I first started out with a wheelbarrow wheel to see how that would go. I got a little squeaking going on. Black streak along that tire. Or if I change the angle maybe a little bit. By 6 miles an hour. Test on this. .39 RPM. If I can see how uneven the little track is though. Uneven. The first wheel I tried, that bigger one, the wheelbarrow wheel, was actually starting to tear up on that OSB track, and it was, squealing, and there was just too much friction between it. And then when I tried that smaller wheel, I could see that maybe the construction of the turbine wasn't precise enough for something like that. It was up and down, it was too uneven. And that was plan A for the powertrain. The plan B was to use a rope drive system, and I showed that a little bit. I haven't given up on that. It's just that I wanted to try something I thought might be a little bit more simpler yet and more of a direct drive. So I went with some homemade gears, some plastic and some wooden gears that I made to see how that would work. Homemade gears, they did work to some extent. I just wasn't real happy with the performance. It seems like there was a lot of friction, like it was pretty rough. I used, this cage gear here is just made with PEX tubing. It's probably harder than a dowel. I thought it'd be smoother running against the wood. It could have been I'm trying to gear it up too much with this smaller cage gear and that bigger wooden gear I made with the teeth on it. And those teeth were not real precise. It was kind of rough. I think it'd take a lot more precision work than what I had in order for it to work better. And probably not trying to gear it up so much. Maybe this was a bigger cage gear. Anyway, that was plan C. Now I kind of look around and see what I have in my piles of parts. And I notice I have some lengths of chain. Now this is a number 40 chain. This is a number 50. I notice this one here has quite a bit of play in it. And I had a gear. Let me see where I did with that gear. I got my gear here. There's something else I had. And I notice even though you got this arch, this curve in the chain, the gear still follows it. I think it was a bigger gear probably wouldn't. I was thinking maybe I can make like a track on the turbine with a chain and use it as a track. And then I had an idea that I might be able to bend the chain into a smaller circle to use as a track if I cut one side of the chain. I decided this is a number 50 chain here. Doesn't have as much play, doesn't have hardly any play in it like the number 40 chain. But my plan is, this is just going to be an experiment to see if it'll work. I'll cut one side of the chain on each link there, just cut each one and see if I can bend it in a circle and still get a gear to follow it. Or I mean a sprocket. So it would be like a track with a gear. So this is just going to be an experiment. I don't think anybody's ever done it before. I suppose it's chain mutilation, but that's my plan. After I get one side of the chain all cut, I'm able to bend this in a circle sideways. Screw in there to hold it. This will bend all the way around. And then the gear will still, a small gear, this is just a 10-tooth sprocket I meant to say, can still follow the chain without getting hung up. A little bigger one will start to have a little bit of trouble. It's a 14-tooth sprocket, and a bigger one yet can't follow the track. It's too much of an angle for it. But a little sprocket can follow it. Well, I have that chain fitted around this hub spool that I made before for the rope. I'll have to finish securing it on there. It's a little bit up and down yet. That seems to be working there, right? Then I have it over to a bigger gear over here. I'm going to gear it up. I don't know. It's pretty secure, I guess. Not much of a wind right now. Turn it by hand to speed it up a little bit. I should have this bearing like right up here, but this is where I had my support bracket from before with my homemade gears, but this works a lot better than homemade gears. That one's just loose. I gotta put a few more. It should be on something flat. This chain should be on something flat, but I couldn't quite bend it around a tighter circle than when I got it. This is 18.5 inches in diameter. Seems to engage in the chain pretty good. The rollers on this chain are still free to turn, so there's not a whole lot of friction. The chain is, this has got to go up a little bit. I got to put more support screws in here. It needs to go up a little bit. But I got it tacked on there now. This is a 10-tooth sprocket, and I think there's about 95 rollers, so it's like a 9.5 to 1 gear ratio for every single turn of the central shaft. I'm getting about 9.5 turns out of here, and then we'll gear it up over here to a smaller sprocket down below on whatever I'm going to be turning. This is the air compressor I was going to stick on here right here, this air compressor. I bought this junked up rig there for like 19 bucks at the sale, but the compressor does work. And I pulled the wheel off, but I cannot find a hub for a sprocket that'll fit this shaft. It's 20 millimeters, and all they have here is standard measurement ones. I thought it was 3/4, but no, it's 20 millimeters. And I wanted to run it off a sprocket. I don't know, I have this sprocket from, I don't know, it's probably 30 years old, but there's no hub for it, but I might be able to bolt it to this pulley maybe, if there's enough clearance here with the chain. Put a couple spacers on those spokes and bolt it right to the pulley. Well, that's what I'm thinking of. I might not do that. I'll do with a little thinking on that, but this is the compressor I wanted to run off the, I think it's supposed to turn this way, run off the wind turbine. We're having a change in weather right now, getting some rain and some wind. And the wind picked up quite a bit. Well, I guess not quite a bit. 12, 13 miles an hour. Probably shut this off because it's just running wild right now. I can see there's some power here. It's a little off. It's wobbling a little bit. I think my shaft is bent. But gear's pretty good. Everything's getting wet. I suppose that chain will rust. But I just have to keep it oiled good when it's raining like this. I can see there's some power there. It's having trouble finding a sprocket to fit on that air compressor I was going to stick on there. I'll probably put it down here. And it'll just run directly. And to shut this off, I'll just throw the brake on. Which I'll probably do right now. I don't need to have this running. These are just little wooden friction brakes. I'm going to just shut this off because I don't need to have it running 100 miles an hour right here when there's no load on it. It's slowing down and stopped, so it's pretty tight. Well, the initial test for that right angle chain drive system is looking promising. I might have to attach that chain in a different manner. I think I might cut a bigger plywood disc and attach the chain directly flat to it. I think it'd probably be better the way I got it right now. I just wanted to see if I could use that spool I made that was for the rope drive, and I still think that has some promise too. I'll still be working with that. Actually, I'll be working with trying different things all through the winter. Nothing was a complete failure, but sometimes you just have to try it to see what's going to work the best. You know, even the homemade gears still got some promise to that. But with this chain drive, it seems more precision, and actually it was a lot easier to make than actually wooden gears. We'll just see how that works in the final end when I finally get something attached to it. It's going to take a little bit to maybe even get different shafts and sprockets so everything is working good together. But that'll be the end of this video, and I will continue, like I said, I'll continue working on this through the winter and keep updating as I go along. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again.